Just to switch on from basketball, you mentioned, uh, Aaron, you mentioned just being able to do the Q30, being able to find out your love for journalism. I just want to ask you, like, a bunch of college students usually don't figure out what they want to do, the first time around, like they switch majors. Was that an experience that you guys had, or did you know automatically, like, this is what I want to do?
Tell the truth, Ace. Tell the truth what happened and how you came in journalism. And if you lie, I'm gonna go ahead and correct you after you answer. So I hope you tell the truth. You see, Drew is delusional. He thinks that in his mind, he joined the newspaper in high school, which
Mhm.
nothing, mind you, high school newspaper is not nowhere. I wouldn't call that journalism.
What?
Anyways, anyways. Actually, let me not say that. Let me not say that. There are some high school newspapers that are very professional, that are very high level, and that are ran exceptionally well.
Yeah.
But everybody knows in high school, everybody takes the newspaper and yearbook classes to just have a chill period where they can come, hang out with their friends, get the easy credit, you know what I'm saying, be on the computers and whatnot. So Drew did that. He wanted to have an easy class. He joined the newspaper and yearbook, whatever, and then I joined the next year. So he had a 1 year head start, whatever. But in any event, with respect to college, um, like I said, we've always had a love for sports. We always had a love for the game of basketball. So we always knew that whenever the ball stopped bouncing, we wanted to stay involved with sports. So whether that was coaching or training people or journalism, I personally never really I never really wanted to coach because I just feel like it's just too many outside factors that go into it that take away from basketball. You got to deal with people's parents and the academic standpoint and all that, and so I didn't really want to necessarily be a coach. And then I've always loved writing. I've always been good at writing through high school. I always took like the AP language, AP literature. Like I've always been pretty good at writing, and I've always enjoyed it. And obviously I love sports. And then my brother and I literally all we do at home is watch ESPN. Like our TV is on ESPN, ESPN2, TNT. Like that's all we do is literally watch journalism. We all we do is watch Sports Center. We grew up watching Stephen A. Smiths and your Chris Broussards and your Jamel Hills and your Michael Smiths and all these black journalists. You
Yeah.
know, we were watching them on TV, and we was like, man, like, and all we do is argue. If you haven't told already, all we do is argue. You know what I'm saying? Whatever and how we argue about sports. I'm a huge Kobe fan. He's a LeBron fan, so all we do is argue about Kobe and LeBron all day, every day, or Kobe and Jordan, or MJ. I mean, LeBron and Jordan, whatever. So we've kind of always had the personality to, just to talk about sports and to argue about sports, and we kind of figured the best way to combine our love for sports, our ability to write, and then just our personality. We have a personality that's kind of we feel like is good for for journalism. So we kind of figured that was the best way to go about doing it. And so there was never really a time where we kind of doubted it. Like we knew going into college we wanted to major in journalism. Throughout the 4 years of college, we knew like we want to be journalists. So it was never really there was never really a time period where we second guessed what we wanted to do. And then obviously Quinnipiac just was such an amazing school, journalism wise, that it really allowed us to hone in on that, to focus on that, and to be around other professionals that have the same goals as we did. And obviously, we were a little different because we were Division One basketball players, so we didn't. We were like there were other athletes that my freshman and sophomore year. There was a kid named Dylan Theron that ran cross country. He's a news anchor now in New Jersey, I want to say. And then there was a kid. There were a few girls that did acrobatics and tumbling that were in it as well. But we were the only guys that played basketball obviously that were doing it. Or basketball and hockey are kind of the two main sports at Quinnipiac. We don't have a football program. We don't have a football team at Quinnipiac. So
Yeah.
basketball and hockey were the two main sports. So like we were there were no hockey players that did it. There were no other athletes that played basketball that did it besides me and Drew. So we kind of had a unique perspective of it because we were athletes as well as journalists. So we kind of got to see it from both sides, which was a really cool and unique thing to experience. But yeah, we've always known it's what we wanted to do, and we've kind of grew up in it, grew up watching it, and that's kind of how we've kind of gotten to the point that we're in today with doing the things that we're doing.
So Andrew, Stephen A. Smith, someone that the three of us actually do admire. He said that he knew he was born, or he knew he was ready to be a journalist when he was able to criticize his own coach. and be able to take that heat. What was that moment for y'all, or for you specifically, that you knew I'm ready for this? I'm made to be a writer. I'm made to be a reporter. You know.
That's a good question. I mean, I already know if it was sort of like a moment where it's like, yeah, like I know now I'm ready. It was more so like a progression. Like Ace mentioned, like I started doing the newspaper when I was in high school. And Ace wanted to be just like me and follow in my footsteps and do journalism. That's really why he got into journalism, because he wanted to be like me. Because I
Yeah.
said, you know, but I started doing it in my 10th grade. I took the newspaper class, just writing and stuff. And then my junior year, I became the opinion editor for the school newspaper. And then my senior year, I was sports editor. And at that time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like you said, when you're young, you don't really know what you want to do with your career. All I knew was I was trying to hoop. I was trying to make it to the league, like, with basketball. But I was like, I like doing this. I like covering sports. I like talking about sports. And I like my people who I like work with on the newspaper staff. So I decided to major in it in college. And then once I got to college, it was kind of like I said, I kind of realized that like I could really like use journalism to kind of combine my love for sports with just talking and arguing, So I think the one time I guess sort of a moment where I knew that I kind of really wanted to be a journalist was like Ace mentioned, we were Division I basketball players on one of the main sports at Quinnipiac. Like obviously hockey and basketball are two main sports, so like we were like heavily criticized. So a lot of people on our team, they didn't really like the media. Like they didn't like journalists. Like when people in Q30 would like say bad stuff about the team, they would be like, man, they say all this crazy stuff. We'd be like, yo, like you can't be mad at them, bro. Like they're doing their job. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day,
And
we
not
lose
here to be
right
your
now.
friends type shit.
Yeah, like you know what I'm saying? Like we're losing right now. So
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, they're gonna criticize the team and say bad stuff for you. You can't take it personally. Like, this like these dudes like they'll see dudes in the caf or in the studio and they'll be like, man, they go so and so, like, man, forget him. I'm like, yo, like you can't take it personal, you know what I'm saying? That's when I kind of realized like, all right, like I understand, you know what I'm saying? Cause I'm seeing it from both sides. I've seen it from the reporter side where you have to write a story and you gotta tell the facts, and sometimes it may be hard. But then I can also see from the athlete standpoint where it seems like the media is just talking about you and they don't really understand, So, that was kind of for me where I was like, all right, like I can kind of see both sides of it. And obviously, you have all this stuff in the climate now, thanks to Donald Trump, where it's like, oh, fake news and this and that. A lot of people have a negative opinion of the media and of journalists because, unfortunately, some journalists don't practice journalistic integrity and they report fake things and things like that. So for me, it's like, you see things like that and you hear what athletes say and you've been in the locker rooms and you know what that's like. So for me, as a journalist, I'm trying to make sure that I don't fall into that trap, that I can produce quality work that people can respect, and that my voice is somebody that others can look to and be like, you know what, I respect his opinion. Whether they like what I'm saying or not, they can at least respect it. So, I mean, I would say for me, I think being able to get so involved, I think my junior and senior year, I got really, really involved in Q30. Like I said, I had the opportunity my senior year to be a beat reporter, which is something that I always wanted to do. And not many people get to do that just because of the fact that it's really time consuming. And then me being a basketball player, obviously, I didn't have a lot of time, but I always tried to find, always wanted to be able to write. And the thing with that was I had the opportunity to write a lot of stories, just and to do different interesting segments. But I think it was a story that I wrote for my senior capstone, and it actually ties in really well with what's going on right now, and it was basically about college athletes' role when it comes to activism. So I wrote this my senior year, based on this was right around the time that Colin Kaepernick, that Nike ad was out, the 50th anniversary, and this was it was the 50th anniversary actually of the 1968 Olympics with the Black Lives Matter protest that had happened. So I was at a game, a college basketball game, my junior year, and my girlfriend at the time was on the women's basketball team, and they were playing Princeton, and some of the Princeton girls took a knee um, during the game, and
Wow.
I was like, wow, I'd never seen that. Like I'd never seen a college athlete take a knee during the anthem. I had seen obviously a lot of the NFL guys did it, obviously in solidarity with Kaepernick. I had seen like some professional athletes do it, but I'd never seen a college athlete take a knee at this. This is my junior year, so this is like This is I think in November of I want to say 2016. I want to say it was, or maybe 2017. Um, but at this point in time, I ain't seen it. Cause I was like, I wonder why that is. I wonder why there hasn't been a lot of college athletes that have spoken out. Um, and I kind of want to explore this idea of athletes' role in activism, and what is your role as an athlete, as a black athlete, in society when it comes to speaking out on issues such as systemic racism and oppression. And I got to interview a ton of people. I got to interview the AD at Quinnipiac. I got to interview head coaches. I interviewed Kevin Blackstone. Obviously, I'm pretty sure we all know who that is. Howard Bryant, obviously, who was a columnist for ESPN and wrote a book called what's his book called? I saw it the other day. I don't know. I interviewed a bunch of Division I athletes as well, and the story ended up coming out really well. I was really proud of it, just because of the fact that the message that it was sending and the way I was able to use my platform, not only as an athlete but as a journalist, to speak about something that was important to me. And that's always something that I've really enjoyed, was just using my platform to kind of bring awareness to things. And I've always admired people like Jamel Hill. She's always been one of my favorite people just because of how outspoken she is, and she never let anybody silence her. And she basically just, I mean, I've always watched her. I mean, she actually left ESPN a few years back because she felt she couldn't be herself. Obviously now she works, for the Undefeated, which covers the intersections of um, sports,
Undefeated in the
society,
end
culture.
planet.
Yeah, they cover culture and sports as well. And obviously, she has her own podcast. Um, so I mean, I just love her and people like her that are African American and that use their platform to speak out. And I've always kind of wanted to mimic that path. So I think being able to write that story was kind of what I knew. Like, yo, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm here to do. And that's kind of what's kind of driven me since then.
So would you say that was your favorite story? I know for me, I just graduated from Towson. One of my favorite stories was actually one I have one up on my wall. I got to do a feature about these three women basketball players. Dude, they all scored 1,000 points in the same season. They reached that mark. They won a championship the season before, and they all had these individual stories that were just amazing to listen to and understand. And someone had she survived getting ran over when she was like 6 years old, couldn't walk. She ended up getting shot when she was in her 20s. You know, thought that she wouldn't be able to play basketball anymore, and she ends up winning a championship and then scoring 1,000 points. She's coming back to Towson next season. Um, so with that being said, like, was that story about activism your favorite story? And um, Drew, what was your favorite?
I'll say for me, that was definitely my most rewarding story because I worked extremely hard on it, and that was my senior capstone. So I was working with my advisor. Her name was Molly Andy, who I'm still extremely close with to this day. She was my professor at the time, but we worked really hard. I did obviously tons of interviews, and um, it was really rewarding to see how it came out. I got to do a lot of there's like a lot of like interactive stuff. I had like a timeline in there of all the police killings and like or not like police killings, but of all the events that kind of led up to Colin Kaepernick's protest, like the Trayvon Martin, the Mike Brown, him taking a knee, him getting uh, kicked out of the league, et cetera, et cetera. And then just to see when it came out, just the exception, the like this, just the way it kind of turned out, was really really rewarding. I would say that's definitely my most rewarding story. As far as my favorite story, it would probably either be that one or an opportunity this year actually at Coppin State to write a story on a pitcher for the Coppin State baseball team. He has one hand. He was a freshman this year. He's a one-handed pitcher.
Mm.
He's actually from New Orleans. He's a Katrina survivor as well. He
Wow.
grew up in New Orleans. His family survived Katrina. They moved, um, and he basically was able to earn a Division I scholarship playing baseball. He actually was one of the best pitchers on the team this year. Um, and I was able to kind of write a story about him and cover his journey, and that was a really cool story to write as well. So I'll say those are probably my favorite two stories that I've gotten to write.
Sure.
Yeah. Kind of my response is similar to Ace. My most rewarding story, where I say I was really proud of, was also my senior capstone that I actually wrote on African American fraternities and sororities at PWIs. So like
Mm.
I'm an alpha. I'm in the first ever historically Black fraternity for undergraduates, and I was able to kind of write a story. Obviously, I joined at Quinnipiac. I was the first ever alpha at Quinnipiac at my school ever. So my experience at Quinnipiac, being in a historically Black fraternity at Quinnipiac, which is a PWI where the majority of the school is white, was definitely a unique experience. And just trying to get things done and dealing with people who don't really know much about your organization, racist things happening on campus. I mean, it was just a huge dynamic that was going on there. So that was kind of one of my favorite, or one of my most rewarding stories, just because it took like I said, it took a lot of time for me to kind of write, and it was something that was near and dear to my heart. Seeing that, obviously, like the work that I put in to become a member of the fraternity, and kind of being somebody who was like a trailblazer on my campus, and I kind of had to lay the groundwork for a lot of people who came after me. So that was something I was really proud of. But as far as my favorite story was actually probably story that I wrote on a cafeteria worker at Quinnipiac. Her name was Leonda De Silva, and she ended up passing away. She had cancer. But I was able to write this story on her. And I kind of I got to really get to know her like a lot better before she passed away. Like, she sent me all these pictures of her kids. She sent me a lot of videos. I got to kind of know her and like what her struggle was like outside of work. And like, she was going to chemo, like while she was working, getting treatment. But despite what she was going through, she was somebody who, like, you know how it is as a college student. You know, if you in the caf, and I couldn't be like, I don't know how the caf is at Towson, but it was a la carte. So you paid for everything that you got in the cafeteria. So sometimes you run low on meal money, and she was somebody you can go to and like look out for. Yeah, like she'll look out for you if you didn't have enough money for something. You know, she'll look out, or she wouldn't. And she would always help people out. You know what I'm saying? She was that person you could always count on to go to, and you could talk to about other stuff that was going on in your life. She would talk to us. She would come to our basketball games. Like, we would give her tickets. She would bring her kids and stuff like that. So, I mean, I was able to kind of, get her story out there like a couple months before she died, before she passed away. And that was something that was really meaningful to me, just because I was able to kind of really get to know her, and somebody who was like just like the unsung hero. You know, everybody talks about, the president of the university, or, the head basketball coach, or, professors, but she was somebody who was a cafeteria worker, but she had such an impact on students' lives, so that was probably one of my favorite stories that I was able to do and work on, and that I'll always remember, and that I always cherish.
For sure, man. And God bless all the calf workers at the college level, man. Like, you mentioned just like getting those blessed swipes. Like, just this last semester, I forgot my student ID card, and this older woman, she recognized me from just going up there all the time, and she's like, yo, just come on, come, just being the sweetest old lady there is. And I'm gonna miss going to that place and just be able to get free meals, man, because I gotta pay for everything now. So, you know, adult in life. But moving forward, you guys mentioned Stephen A. Y'all mentioned Jamel Hill, Michael Smith. There's a long list of just great journalists to mold yourself after, but who would y'all say that you would most want to be like, or just really read the most or watch the most?
I mean, I know for me, like I was saying, for me, I grew up. I like Stephen A. Smith just because of the fact that he, grew up, and had to kind of grind his way. Started working for the Philadelphia Inquirer, which is a small town paper, and then worked his way up to now he's making multi-millions a year as the biggest TV personality that ESPN has. So I kind of grew up idolizing him, but recently I think I've kind of try to emulate more of like a Jamel Hill, like I was saying earlier, just because of everything that she stands for. I just love everything about her. Like, she's just so unapologetic with who she is and her brand. And the other day, there was like a webinar. It was her, LaChina Robinson, and oh my God, my memory, huh? Was it Monica McNutt, right? Monica McNutt, yeah. So 3 African American women in sports journalism,
Yeah.
and
And
they had a webinar that I joined the other day, huh?
so I think Monica and LaChana are local too.
Yeah. They had a webinar, and Jamel Hill was a quote. I remember she was saying basically, um, when she worked at ESPN, something she would always tell the younger people is, you have to know who you are before you walk into this building, because if you don't, it can easily get lost, along the way. Obviously, these big companies, your ESPNs, your Fox Sports, your, MSNBC or whatever, they're gonna have their brand and what they want to promote, and you always have to be wary of who you are. And I feel that's something that I've tried to always remember. 'Cause obviously, our goal is always, to make it to the top. We all want to be, Stephen A. We all want to be reporters on ESPN. We all want to be on the big screen. But I think for me, something that I always try to keep in mind is that, I don't ever want anybody to be able to filter me. Obviously, you as a journalist, you have to be professional, but I don't ever want to have to be silenced. I don't ever want to have to be, hushed or any of that sort. Like I just want to be me. And I know that if I'm me, if I'm unapologetically me, then I'll end up. I feel like I'm confident that I'll end up where I want to be. And I just love that she didn't sacrifice any of herself to be where she is today. And that's why I just love her. I love everything that she's been able to do in her career. So I'll probably, for me, that'll probably be the one that I have tried to mold myself after, that I watch a lot, that I follow.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'll say obviously Stephen A. Like obviously coming from Winston-Salem State, which is a HBCU, and just putting on for Black people, and being a voice and inspiration for people from HBCUs that they can make it somewhere in life. Obviously him, but for me also Stuart Scott, because Stuart Scott he's also an alpha like myself, and he's somebody that, like, when I was pursuing alpha, when I was pursuing being in the fraternity, he was somebody who I looked up to as like a role model, because he was somebody who had the same career path that I wanted and had the same ideas that I shared as well. And he's obviously somebody who had a great career, at ESPN, the whole boom and all his things that he was doing in the highlights, and like he was just a personality. Like he, like when he was on air, when he was doing his play-by-plays or whatever he was doing, like his personality really showed. And he was somebody who's also like a family man. Obviously, like his daughters loved him, everybody loved him, and he was somebody who, nobody had anything bad to say about him. So for me, just trying to be a man and a upstanding man in society one day, and hopefully I can have a family and kids. I want to kind of, that's somebody who I want to be like, and somebody who I respect a lot.
For sure. I didn't even know Stuart Scott was an alpha. That's interesting fact to know now. But just going on with the just these mentors and people that you want to be like, do you guys see yourself kind of being like a Jalen Rose, or to just be like super genuine like a Steven Jackson or and Matt Barnes, like the All the Smoke podcast?
I mean, I think the thing with this is that you, as much as possible, like you want to try to watch people and pick up things, but you can't try to emulate anybody else, because
Sure.
neither of us are Stephen A. Smith, neither of us are, Stuart Scott, neither of us are, Jalen Rose, neither of us played in the NBA for 12 years, you know what I'm saying? So I think we just kind of have to try to be ourselves. We have to be Aaron and Andrew Robinson. We have to kind of be who we are and just try to be as authentic as possible. And obviously, we watch all those guys and we take little bits and pieces from each and every one of them and take little tidbits. But I think, we have to be ourselves. And I'm strong believer that if you put your best foot forward each and every day and you go after and try to get a little bit better each and every day, then eventually, you'll reap the benefits. So I just think we just kind of have to be Aaron and Andrew Robinson, be the Robinson twins and just be ourselves and, keep doing good work. And then hopefully, if God willing, we'll be able to make it, to where those guys are one day.
So, speaking of just, dang, I lost my train of thought. My fault, yo. Just speaking of just being like authentically yourself and making sure that you are who you are and you represent what you are. You guys just this past week put out a video about George Floyd, about the Black Lives Matter protests, about these riots going on. How important was that? Was it just like a thing that you guys knew you had to do? What was this moment like for you guys making that video and making that address?
I mean, I think it just goes back to what you said, it's being authentic. And that's something that, forget about us being basketball players or journalists or whatever. Like, that's something that, like, for me, especially like advocacy and and just social justice is something that I care about and something that's near and dear to my heart, and obviously being an alpha and being a part of the fraternity that I'm a part of, like, you have guys like Martin Luther King Jr. and Thurgood Marshall and that came before me, guys who were on the front lines of the civil rights movement and progress this country forward. And by no means was I trying to be like any of those guys, but I feel like you said, if it's something that you care about, all the other basketball stuff and journalism stuff goes out the window. And I felt like it was, my responsibility to speak my mind on something that I believe in and that I believe is important, and obviously we've been blessed enough to be able to play basketball and, start this All Facts page that we've been able to get a decent amount of followers and people that watch our stuff. So I think that we have a platform to where we have a responsibility to voice our opinion and educate those, and I always say, like, if you can even touch one person with these videos, like, we put out videos that will get hundreds and thousands of views, but like, you never know how people may receive it or who's listening to something. So, for me, my mindset was, if we get part of this video and if I can just reach one person and change one person, or I can get one person to hear me and make a change, then this video served the purpose. And, I think we've been able to do that. I have people that have made responses to our videos and have said, yo, man, like, I want to be a part of the solution. And, they've spoken out, because of what we did, so just knowing that, the video had an impact, I know that, we accomplished our goal. And, hopefully we can do much more. Obviously this, what's going on in my country can't really be solved by a tweet or a video, but, just being a part of the solution and being able to kind of voice our opinion on social issues in our society, I think it's our responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like Drew was saying, I think the biggest thing with all this is just being genuine. I think, you can't put something out there that you're not actually believing in your heart. And I think, like Drew said, we've always been passionate about, advocating for people who. Cause I think my biggest thing with just not only being a Black American, but being an athlete, being a journalist. I think we're in a unique position where we have an opportunity to, you know, to use our platform and use our voice that other people don't have. There's people that don't have the opportunity to speak out. So I feel like we'll be hypocrites. We'll be doing a community disservice if we didn't speak out. But obviously, I think it comes from just being genuine first. We always wanted to make sure that whatever we put out there is genuine and is come from our heart. So I just think that just was something that we felt like we had to do, and something that we wanted to do, something that we kind of had a responsibility to do. So I think that was just go to say just that's what we expect to be. When we first if you go back and look at our first pin tweet, I think it's pinned on our profile actually. When we first made the page, we kind of made it known that we would be talking about sports and all things like culturally and anything that came about, because that's something that's important to us. Some certain things are bigger than sports, and it's definitely one of them. What's going on in our country right now?
For sure. So, is this just as media members, three of us are, you guys mentioned just the responsibility, just making sure that, the voices are heard. Is this something that you expect more media members to, put their voice out there and make sure that people understand? Because, we are living in a very, very crazy moment, a very, very pivotal time. You just saw videos of Trump, saying, he's gonna unleash the full power of the military, and well, not the full power of the military, but just the full power of the government, and make sure that protests aren't getting as crazy as they are. Like, is this a time where journalists have to make sure that accurate things are being told, and journalists make sure that people understand what the protests are truly about?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a journalist, you always want to. The first thing you learn is always just to speak the truth. Never lie. You never want to exaggerate anything. Just tell the story, what's going on, and be factual. So I mean, I think that's the number one principle in all this is just as a journalist, stick to your morals, stick to the news values that we all learned back in journalism 101. When it comes to reporting things, but as far as speaking out, I think it is our responsibility to do so, but like I said, this goes back to being genuine. I don't want anybody saying anything that's not from the heart or that's not authentic. You know what I'm saying? I don't want anybody putting out any blanket statements that they don't really believe in, because that's more harmful than not speaking out. But I think that at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to report on what's happening in this country. I think there's a lot of people who believe the media is biased and they only report on things that are a certain agenda. And I think that that's not what our role is. Our role is to report the truth. So I think that throughout this is just that's really the job of the media. It's just to get the facts out there, educate people, and just keep everybody in the loop of what's really going on.
Sure.
I feel like both you guys touched on it. You have there's a fine line. Obviously, you have reporting the facts, which I think every journalist that's your first duty responsibility is to report the facts. So if you're out there on the front line, your duty is to not try to taint any videos or try to manipulate your captions or your videos to make it fit your agenda. Obviously, your first responsibility is to tell the truth and the whole truth and to be authentic. Then you have when it comes to calls to action, like trying to make a change and spreading the word and advocacy. I mean, me and my friends have been talking about this past couple of days. I think that it has to be genuine. It has to be from your heart. It has to be real, because you can tell when somebody says something and they're either not educated on it or it's not really from the heart. You have a lot of people that have been putting out these statements, and it's like you can tell that it's just like their PR to try to cover their ass. Like, oh, let me say something so that I don't look like the racist, And then you have your statements that's like, wow, this is powerful. Like, we need to see more of this. And I actually quoted something last night on my Twitter from a coach, the Joe Mason coach, that tweeted a really nicely, well said like statement about what's going on in our country today. But then I've seen a bunch of other coaches where it's like XYZ institution is against all forms of racism, oppression, and discrimination. It will not be tolerated in our society. We need to come together for a change. Like, okay, your PR person could have wrote that. Like, it's like, what if you don't? There's no. I don't know. Like, it has to be genuine. It has to be something that you genuinely believe. It's something that you genuinely, are feeling in your heart. And if you're not, then don't say anything. But if you have something genuinely that's on your heart that you want to share, by all means, share it. But like I said, it just has to be genuine.
And just for one more thing, you guys mentioned just like no immediate goal. So would you just say it's just about staying independent and continue to just like have that love for journalism and all that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, about like at the end of the day, like we know, like we just started this, like I said, in October. So I mean, we definitely don't want to limit ourselves right now as far as jumping into a specific lane and saying, all right, yeah, all facts is a college basketball page, or all facts is a sports page, or what I'm saying. Like, we want to be able to talk about whatever we want. You know what I'm saying? So like, we want to kind of continue to grow it. And I think that for us, obviously, it is right now just for the love of what we of journalism, just for the love of sports, really. So I mean, that's kind of what we're the purpose behind it. And I think that we just want to keep, like Aaron said, just keep focusing on putting out content and putting out things that people will listen to and that will like, and everything else will kind of go from there. We also want to, like, obviously we're people who like we follow in the footsteps of people who came before us. Guys like LeBron and Kevin Durant, and guys who are athletes and kind of had started their own things and their own, like, LeBron's got the shop on HBO, and Kevin Durant and Rich Kleiman kind of started the boardroom. They had Stephen A. Smith on, like the athletes are kind of starting to realize that we don't have to like jump on somebody else's wave. You know what I'm saying? We can start our own wave. So for us, it's like we want to. When we first started, it was kind of like, we want you just to kind of be able to get a job with somebody else. Let's use all facts to kind of show that we can work for CBS Sports, we can work for ESPN. We can get another job. We just show people what we can do. But now it's kind of like, like, we won't need to be ESPN or Fox Sports or CBS. Like, we can just be all facts. Like, we can make this our own thing, and kind of start this thing from the ground up and make it our own. And maybe one day we'll be like the ESPNs and whatever. So. But it's baby steps. You can't really worry about that right now. You can't really worry about making money. You can't really worry about anything like that. You just got to worry about doing what you love. And at the end of the day, talking about sports is something that we love to do. So we're going to continue to do that. And I think that if you have the genuine intent, and you're doing it for the right reasons, then success will come from that. So that's really our vision.
Sure, man. And final thing, do you guys what's the last thing that you guys want to say to the people, and then to make sure that people understand about y'all and just this line of work?
I mean, I would just say that we just always kind of wanted to be multifaceted people. We never wanted to be known as basketball players. We wanted to be known as people who play basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people kind of have this. A lot of athletes, I would say, have this. You struggle with this identity because your whole life you play basketball. Your whole life you play football. And then one day, whether you're 21, 31, 51, that sport is going to end for you. And then you have people that go into these identity crises because they don't know who they are. It's like, dang, I've been playing the sport my whole life. What am I going to do now? And for us, luckily we were raised, the right way, and we were raised to, be more than just athletes. So just trying to obviously still hoop and still play basketball and still be athletes, but also take care of our life, once the ball stops bouncing, and, being able to have something that we're proud of, that we can say, look back and say, dang, like, look at what we did, look what we created, and hopefully, one day it'll be something that we can be proud of.
For sure.
And I mean, last thing I'll say is just like, for anybody who doesn't really know what we're about or doesn't know what All Facts is, make sure you check out our social media pages and everything. But, the first thing you should do is watch the last video we posted about the Ahmaud Arbery and the George Floyd stuff, because that's the most important thing that's going on in our country right now. Nothing that's going on in sports or that's going on in anywhere else is more important than, what's going on right now in terms of racial equality, social justice, advocacy. And, I just want to challenge people, man, if you're listening to this video, if you're watching this video, be a part of the change, man. Like, do something that will influence somebody else, man. We have to continue to strive to break down this barrier of racial inequality every day and this systemic racism that exists in our country every day. So, if you're watching this video, man, educate yourself, educate somebody else, be a part of the solution. You know what I'm saying? If you're somebody who's watching this and you're white and you have that sense of privilege, whether you recognize it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not, do something about it. Educate somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, read up about it if you don't know about it. But be a part of the change. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're in your community, then you know somebody who doesn't really know what's going on right now. Educate them. Be an ally for somebody who's Black. Be a vessel. So I mean that's really my message for people who are watching this. I hope that you guys are a part of the solution and that we can kind of begin to move forward from this.
All right, man. Thank you guys once again for your time. Make sure that you go check their Instagram and Twitter, All Facts Media, and we are out. Bang.
My guy or gal, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell, and share this video for the latest on sports, progressive politics, and pop culture. Slap.